the real Budweiser.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. This is one that was requested by a subscriber, and he pointed out to me that even though I'd done a comparison video of the Budvar, this stuff, and the American Budweiser, I hadn't actually reviewed Budvar on its own. Now, this is a beer that I drink quite regularly, and it's one of them beers that I've been drinking since, more or less, since it was introduced into the UK in the early 90s. And it's one of them beers that I've always gone back to, if you know what I mean. It's a great beer, I have to say, and I've never been disappointed by its flavour over here. I have actually tasted it in the Czech Republic. We done a gig over there in, I think, 2010, and it was really cheap. And I mean really cheap. I think a bottle of it was about 60p or something like that, and I drank loads of it. I drank loads of Star of Pramen at the gig we were doing. That was 99 pence, so it worked out. I worked it out in euros, and it was 99p. But beer is really cheap over there, and it's really good. And this is no exception. Now, this is an independently run brewer, or brewery I should say, and it's had a bit of a run-in with Budweiser, and there's a lot of history that goes on between these two brewers. I don't really want to go into too much of it here because I do explain it on the other video that I do. Well, it's 3 videos actually, and I've done that quite early on when I started reviewing it. I think I've done it on my phone. I didn't have this camera, so it's a bit primitive, but the information in there is still valid. So I'll put links to that down in the description so as you can see that. If you want to have a look. It's quite lengthy. It's 3 videos long, so it's about half an hour. If you're interested, that is. But suffice to say, this is from the Czech Republic. It's the original Budweiser. It's from a region called Bohemia, or originally was from a region called Bohemia, which is a region of the Czech Republic, what is now the Czech Republic. It's got quite a long history. It's state-run. It's independent. Well, yeah, it's independent in so much as it's not run by any of the big conglomerates, the brewing conglomerates, and it's been over here in the UK since, oh, when would that be? Early 90s, I think. We used to frequent a club in Finsbury Park. It was called the Mousetrap, and back then I was a skinhead at the time, and it was a mod club, and they didn't really like us in there, but you could get a late drink. I think it was open till 2 or 3 o'clock, and we, you know, this is when the licensing hours were strict back then, so that was always a destination to go. And they had this stuff, and I drank this all the time. And at the time, even at 5%, that was quite a strong beer, and I'd come out of there pretty well oiled. As a matter of fact, I was drinking it last night. There is a pub in Maidstone in Kent called the Flower Pot, and they have this regularly on tap, and it's the barman, or the barman's, the owner's, the landlord's favourite beer. And it's always good, and in the warm weather it is absolute dynamite. I absolutely love it. I drink loads of it because it is a good beer. Now, just getting back to the whole thing with Budweiser, there's been a lot of lawsuits between the two regarding the name, and this comes from a place in the Czech Republic called Budvar, I think it's pronounced, something like that anyway. I'm sure there's Czech viewers on here will correct me on my pronunciation, but I think it's called Budvar or something like that, and it's taken its name Budweiser from the German, from a native from that region would be known as a Budweiser, and Budweiser to give it the correct pronunciation. And the Anheuser-Busch lot that went over to I think, what was his name? Was it Adolf Busch? I think his name was, or Adolf Anheuser. I think it was Adolf Busch. They went over to the States and they wanted to brew a beer that looked like the Pilsner that came from this region, and they chose this name because there was beer being brewed in this region, and it goes as far back as the Spanish War of Succession, which was in the early 1700s, and I think it was Prince Eugene of Savoy, or I think Prince Eugen if you're German, how it's pronounced, and he was a very, very successful general. In fact, him and the Duke of Marlborough were two of the most successful generals in Europe at the time, and especially after the Spanish War of Succession. And he earned a lot of money, and with this money, when he retired, he decided to fund a brewery, and this is where the tradition of brewing in Budvar comes from. So Budweiser really haven't got a claim as to being the first, if you know what I mean. However, this brewery does, even though it has got the tradition of brewing in that region, this actual brewery, I think it goes back to 1800 and something, which is a few years after Budweiser was first brewed. And yeah, as I say, the lawsuit's been going back and forth. If you're in Europe, you may see bottles of Budweiser, the American Budweiser, or you may see bottles of Bud. Now in Italy, I think it's known as Bud. In the UK, it's known as Budweiser, and certain other countries. Honestly, there is so many different lawsuits. But this stuff is sold in America, and it's sold there under a different name because they can't sell it as Budweiser. That, you just couldn't do that. It's known as Czechva in the United States. In Germany, it's known as AB, or Budweiser. Sorry, the American Budweiser in Germany is known as AB, as in Anheuser-Busch. They won't even allow Bud on there, so yeah, the Germans are pretty strict on that. But put it this way, if you're buying Budweiser and you're in Germany, you're, oh, don't get me started. Do not get me fucking started. Right, so that's a little bit about the background of the brewery. If you want to know more, check the links below. I've put the 3 videos, please watch them if you want to find out a little bit more and how powerful AB InBev are, and you know, the whole wrangling with the Czech Budvar company, the whole Czech Budvar brewery, I should say. Let's investigate this beer. Right, this is a very dented can of Budvar, and the reason it's dented, I bought this the other day. I watched a band and we ended up at the drummer's house, me, the missus and a few others. He said come round for a party, and I didn't have any beer because the band was playing in the pub. He said don't worry, there's an off licence. And I walked into the off licence, I didn't know what they sold, and I saw cans of this on the shelf, and I thought brilliant, because it's normally in green bottles. Occasionally it can go skunky, and you don't get that coming from a can. So that's good. Well, you don't normally get that coming from a can anyway. So that's why I picked it up. And it's a bit dented because I think I dropped it a few times. I was fucking well oiled. I was drinking shots and everything, and I never do that. I never drink shots. And yeah, it was one of them nights. But it's a 500ml can. It is. Hang on, let me get my bins on because these are new glasses as well, and I think they're too strong. I look like Mr. Magoo. Yeah, it's got the usual, yeah, it's 5%, usual ingredients: water, barley malt, hops, contains barley, yeah, blah, 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 Budvar UK, based in Bristol, and it's got it in Czech as well, brewed and canned by, yeah, Budweiser, Budvar, in Budvar, I think that's how it's pronounced, yeah, but this has definitely come from the Czech Republic. If they ever license this to be brewed in the UK, I will not be drinking it. So far they haven't. Yeah, and it says owned by the Czech Republic. That means it is state owned. So yeah, there you go. There's the can, as if you didn't know. I'm sure you've seen that before. There's the dents. I've got another can in the fridge and it's even more fucking dented, so that'll give you an idea as to what the night was like. Let's get it open and let's see what's going on. Now, I'm not going to bullshit you. I have had this loads of times, so this is nothing new. So I'm just going to be giving you my opinion of the beer, and I'll try and describe what I get flavour-wise when I drink this. Now, on draft, it is quite dark. It's quite amber looking. What the fuck was that? I have no idea. Oh, you can smell it from here. It's lovely. Very malty, and it does smell like a typical Czech Pilsner. Yeah, that's really nice. You can really get the hops that have gone into here, and it's Sart's hops that they use. Oh, it's lovely because it's really subtle hoppy flavours and aromas in this beer, but on first opening, certainly on the can, you don't normally get this on the draft. I do sometimes when I'm in the pub. I take a whiff, and I don't normally get this, but you can really smell the herbal notes coming from them hops, and there's a bit of spice in there too. Typical noble hop sorts. What the fuck is that? Fuck off. There's quite a lot of malt on there as well. It's like caramel malt. And, well, it has got a slight aroma of caramel malt, but there's like a almost biscuity type aroma as well. But the hops dominate on this. It's got real strong herbal notes. It's difficult to describe. It's like fresh cut grass, if you can imagine that. Sweet, fresh cut grass, but with sort of a black pepper, spicy aroma. If you've ever got black peppercorns and crushed them up, I don't advise you to sniff them, but if you can, you know, if you pour a lot, or if you grind a lot of pepper onto some food and you get that really sort of peppery aroma, you do get that from this, mixed in with that fresh cut grass, and it's just really nice, I have to say. So with that in mind, let's get it down the hatch. Bottoms up. That is lovely. Now, if you're a fan of Czech Pilsners and you think Pilsner Urquell is a little bit too bitter, this is slightly sweeter. Not a lot, but it is. You can notice the sweetness. And some people I've spoke to online and mates who've tried Pilsner Urquell, now you've got to remember Pilsner Urquell is owned by Asahi. I don't think it's brewed over here. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think it is. But you do get quite strong bitterness on the finish, which is a characteristic of a Pilsner. That's what it does. You emphasise the hops on a Pilsner. This has got a lot more sweetness to it. You do get slight bitterness on the finish, and there's some fruity notes on here as well. Very, very subtle fruity notes. I would describe it as, and it is subtle, believe me, but it's like a peach type sweetness to it, and it complements the beer perfectly, and it doesn't give you that real strong bitterness that you get with good Czech Pilsners. I'm not saying this isn't good, but this is at the sweeter end of the market. But it is good. I have noticed sometimes when I drink it out of a bottle, I do get more of a well, what I perceive to be like a skunky type flavour on it, which makes it more bitter. So my advice to you is, if you're going to try this, try and hunt it down in cans. I know Morrison's do it, certain supermarkets will do it, and certain mini marts will do it as well in cans. So that's why I deliberately pick one out in a can. I mean, they had it in bottles there as well, and this is quite widely available, and there's a reason for that. It's because it's good, and they have good distribution links in the United Kingdom, certainly in the south. I'm not sure how common it is up north, but this is going down great, and it's a fantastic beer. Oh, it's just so drinkable. It's really good, I have to say. Now, you shouldn't even be comparing this with Budweiser. This has got lots and lots of character. Budweiser hasn't got character at all. It really hasn't. And it's the most popular beer in America, Budweiser. And it's probably the blandest beer out there. And don't get me wrong, there are some bland beers. Coors Light, Miller Lite, etc. Stuff like that. Bud Light even. I don't see the point. And the two, the only thing they've got in common is the name. As far as that. And then after that, there's nothing in common at all. The Budweiser from America is like a, I don't know, just some cheap run-of-the-mill macro brewed lager. That is, even though it's brewed on quite a big scale, it still retains some good character, and it's really good. And it is going down an absolute fucking storm. It really is. It's my first beer of the night. England have just beaten Germany 2-0. Reasonable game. I'm not getting too excited about it. I've seen this before in the 1990 World Cup. I do remember that. But what better way? I have got some German beer in the fridge. I shouldn't really be drinking it after England have just battered them. But yeah, no, so I decided to do this. And it's about time it was reviewed on its own. It deserves its own review. And I can't believe it. I do thank that subscriber. I can't remember which subscriber it was, so do forgive me for that. But you know who you are, for reminding me that I need to review this, because it does warrant its own review, because it is a fantastic beer. Now, if you can get it on draft, where they know what they're doing and they get it in fresh, and it sells quite a lot, as it does in this pub in Maidstone, then yeah, you're onto a winner. And I've spent nights just drinking this, and it's lovely. It really is. And it's a creeper as well. The more it goes down, the more you want, basically. And this is what's happening here. Oh, it's great. It's just, I wouldn't say it's your typical Belgian. I wouldn't say it's your typical Czech Pilsner. There are more characteristic from the Czech Republic, and I'd imagine this is quite common in the Czech Republic and not widely regarded. But believe you me, when you've got so much shit for sale, this is a welcome beer, believe me. And I really like it. I think it's good. I'll drink it anywhere, to be honest. I have no qualms about drinking Budvar. To me, it's a good beer. So what's the verdict on Budweiser Budvar from the Czech Republic? It's fantastic, but that's no surprise to me, because I've been drinking this since the 90s and I've always gone for it when I've seen it in a pub. Not because of anything specifically, it's just because it's a good fucking beer. And yes, there are better Czech Pilsners out there. If you go to the Czech Republic, I guarantee you will taste better than this. But because it's so widely available, and because it's cheap, and because it tastes really nice, it's going to get a 10 out of 10 for me. I'm just, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm blown away by it, but I like its consistency. I don't know what that idiot is barking at. I think there's people out in the street because of the England game. It's been fucking mad here today. This estate, when England play, they go absolutely mental. But yeah, you've probably tasted it before anyway. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. It's great. It's got some nice hoppy character to it, noble hop character, lovely malts, and it just goes down really well, and I like it. It's 5%. You can session it, as I have done. I don't know what state you'll be in after you've had a few of these, but it's good. I like it, and for me that's 10 out of 10. Now you can argue and say, why are you giving a macro brewed beer 10 out of 10? I don't think it's macro brewed. It's brewed on a very large scale, don't get me wrong. It's a state-run brewery. So is Guinness, but obviously Guinness is owned by Diageo now, I think, and it's very consistent. They do good beer, this brewery. If you get a chance, you have to try the dark lager that they do, which is basically, it's very like the German Schwarzbier, but I really was blown away by how good that stuff was. If you can find the Budweiser Dark, it's quite hard to get hold of in this country, but it's really good. That is worth checking out as well. When I say Budweiser Dark, I don't mean that fucking American shit. I mean Budvar Dark. That is superb. I've reviewed it on the channel. If you want to have a little search on the channel, you can find that as well. But this stuff is fantastic, and for me that's 10 out of 10 all day long. You know where to get it. You've probably had it before. Get some. And remember, beer is working class champagne.